In the year 1258, the world's greatest city stood at the center of human knowledge, a place where science, poetry, and faith flourished as one. This was Baghdad, the round city of peace. But in a few short months, it would become a graveyard. At its heart stood the Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, the greatest library the world had ever known. Here, scholars translated the works of Aristotle, Ptolemy, and Euclid, preserving knowledge the rest of the world had forgotten. Mathematics, medicine, astronomy, Baghdad was the beating heart of a golden age of human achievement. The markets of Baghdad overflowed with silk from China, spices from India, and gold from Africa. Canals and aqueducts brought water throughout the city, feeding gardens that seemed to rival paradise itself. At the center of it all sat the Caliph Al-Musta'sim, the spiritual leader of the Islamic world, heir to 5 centuries of Abbasid glory. But Baghdad's rulers had grown complacent.
500 years of peace had dulled their sense of danger. Far to the east, a new power had risen, one that had already conquered half the known world. The Mongol Empire, forged by Genghis Khan, now stretched from Korea to the gates of Europe. Now, its gaze had turned toward Baghdad, and its new leader, Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis, would not be denied. Hulagu Khan commanded the largest army the Mongols had ever assembled, over 150,000 warriors, engineers, and siege specialists. From conquered China and Persia, Hulagu brought engineers who built siege weapons unlike anything Baghdad had ever faced. Naphtha bombs, gunpowder incendiaries, and catapults capable of hurling boulders the size of a man. Baghdad's walls had never faced weapons like these. In late 1257, Hulagu sent a message to the Caliph: submit or face total destruction. Al-Musta'sim's advisors urged caution, but the Caliph, confident in his city's legendary status, refused to yield. He believed Baghdad was protected by God and that no army on earth could breach its walls. It was a fatal miscalculation. Hulagu's answer came not in words, but in motion. The largest Mongol army ever assembled began its march toward Baghdad. From 3 directions, Mongol forces converged, a pincer movement designed to leave Baghdad no escape. Mongol engineers even diverted canals to trap the opposite army against the flooded plains, a tactic Baghdad never saw coming. Baghdad's army, Baghdad's only real defense, marched out to meet them and rode straight into the trap. Mongol horse archers surrounded them, raining arrows into the trapped and floundering ranks. In a single day, Baghdad's army was annihilated. The city that once ruled the world now stood utterly defenseless. By January 1258, Baghdad was completely encircled. There would be no reinforcements, no escape. Inside the walls, panic spread. Citizens who had never known war now watched the horizon fill with enemy banners. Hulagu offered one final chance to surrender. Again, the Caliph refused, believing rescue would still come. On January 29th, the bombardment began. Trebuchets hurled stone and fire into the city day and night. The walls of Baghdad, unrepaired for generations, began to crack under the relentless assault. Baghdad's defenders fought back bravely, but they were outmatched in every way, in numbers, in weapons, in strategy. After weeks of relentless bombardment, the eastern wall finally gave way. Mongol soldiers poured through the breach like floodwater through a broken dam. By February 5th, resistance had collapsed. The city's fate was sealed. On February 10th, 1258, Caliph Al-Musta'sim finally emerged from the city gates to surrender. He offered treasure, submission, anything to spare his people, but it was already too late. Hulagu had already made his decision. Baghdad, the city that defied him, would be made an example for the entire world.
What followed was one of the most devastating massacres in human history. For 7 days, Mongol soldiers moved through Baghdad's streets and homes without mercy. Historians estimate that hundreds of thousands perished, though the exact number remains debated to this day. The greatest tragedy struck the House of Wisdom. Centuries of irreplaceable manuscripts were set ablaze. Legend says so many books were thrown into the Tigris that the river ran black with ink for months. Centuries of astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and mathematics, the accumulated wisdom of the ancient world, vanished in a matter of days. Caliph Al-Musta'sim himself was captured along with his family. Mongol tradition held that royal blood should not touch the earth. According to legend, the caliph met his end wrapped in a carpet, trampled by horses. With his death, the Abbasid Caliphate, 500 years of Islamic political and cultural leadership, came to an end.
When the smoke finally cleared, Baghdad, once home to nearly 1 million people, lay in ruins. The irrigation canals that once fed its gardens lay broken and abandoned, and would remain so for centuries. The city that once illuminated the world had been plunged into darkness. Historians often mark the fall of Baghdad as the definitive end of the Islamic Golden Age. Yet not all was lost. Scholars who escaped carried fragments of that knowledge to Cairo, Damascus, and beyond. Some of that knowledge would later resurface in Europe, quietly helping to spark the Renaissance centuries later. Baghdad itself would recover in time, rebuilt under new rulers, but it would never again hold the same singular place in history. Today, historians still study this moment as one of the great turning points in world history. The Siege of Baghdad reminds us how fragile even the greatest civilizations can be.
And how knowledge, once lost, is never truly forgotten, as long as someone remains to carry its flame forward. The Mongol Siege of Baghdad, the day the world changed forever.